more or less where they're located. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at them more physiologically, how they function. We're going to talk about the words tonic and phasic. Now, what I don't want you to do is think that it's a completely different kind of receptor. It's not. It's just another way of naming the same receptors that we've already discussed. So to make that clear, let's just do this. Okay, so again, we have two types of receptors. They're either somatic or they're autonomic. So we have somatic receptors, those are the exterior receptors, those are the proprioceptors. And then we have our autonomic receptors, otherwise known as visceral receptors. So anatomically, that's how we would divide these two types of receptors. Physiologically, which is more function, we're going to divide them by using two other words. And this is how we're going to make sure that we understand that it's not completely different kinds of receptors, it's just another way of dividing them up. Okay? So, most, not all, I didn't say all. Okay? You know what, I don't even want to say most, let's put many, it's a better word. Many somatic receptors, okay, are phasic, are categorized as phasic. You'll see that in your notes in both. Many, not all, autonomic receptors are tonic receptors. Again, just another name that we give them. It's a behavioral thing. So many autonomic receptors function in a tonic manner, and I'm going to explain what that means. Many somatic receptors behave, again, function, physiology, in a phasic manner. All right? So let's talk about what that means. What is the difference between a phasic receptor and a tonic receptor? It's about action potential and a phenomenon called adaptation. So what we're going to do is that we're going to talk about a phenomenon called sensory adaptation. All right? So we have phasic receptors, we have tonic receptors. They can be either somatic or autonomic. Okay, again, it's not a different kind of receptor. I just need to make that 100% clear. All right? So in order to explain this, we're going to draw a picture. We're going to draw that picture right there. Except I think we're going to make it a little bit more clear. So we're going to do the same thing that we did here. We're going to have a receptor, we're going to have a neuron, we're going to measure membrane potential, we're going to measure the stimulus strength. We're going to do the same thing, but the protocol is going to be different. In order for this phenomenon to be manifested, to be shown, the stimulus must be constant. That's the key. In order to categorize these receptors the way that we're talking about right now, you can't have a stimulus that looks like this. Up and then down, and then up and then down. No. It's got to be constant. And when I say constant, it means it has to be the same stimulus. The same stimulus strength over a prolonged period of time. And I'm going to give you a real-world example of how this happens on a daily basis to you guys. All right? So, let's talk about sensory adaptation. So we're going to have a receptor. We're going to simplify this a little bit more than that other picture. So there's our receptor. And you know what? We're going to make that a pressure receptor from the somatic nervous system. Okay, that could be a Pacinian corpuscle or a Merkel's disc. A somatic pressure receptor. All right? Merkel's disc, Pacinian corpuscle, Meissner's corpuscle. It doesn't matter. One of those three, pick one. We're going to have our little neuron. The hell, let's just draw it. Takes 2 seconds. All right? And there's the central nervous system. So again, the same setup that we had before. What the hell, let's put some myelin on there. And we're going to measure membrane potential right there. And we're going to have a constant stimulus. Meaning that that particular receptor is going to be stimulated constantly over time with the exact same intensity. It's not going to go up, it's not going to go down. It's going to be the same. And we're going to depict that in this picture. So, stimulus strength. Nothing to something, and it's constant. All right? This is membrane potential. We're resting. We're going to hit threshold, and now we're generating action potentials. Now we feel that. Why? Because those those action potentials are marching along, conducting along to the central nervous system, and those neurons are interpreting those action potentials as touch, pressure. All right? And the stimulus, once again, is constant. Now, this is what's going to happen over time, because we're going to slowly start to repolarize. And as we do, action potential frequency is going down. Now look. At that point right there, we're resting again. Do we feel it? Do we feel anything at that point? Are we feeling less and less as we go in this direction? Are we feeling it less? Yes, right? Action potential frequency, that's information. So this is a somatic pressure receptor. And we're stimulating it constantly with the exact same amount of pressure. Over time, what's going to happen is adaptation. That's what the phenomenon is. Over time, if the stimulus is constant in certain receptors, not all of them, we are going to have adaptation until the action potential ceases. Why? Because we've gone right back to our resting membrane potential, and we don't feel it. This happens to most people on a daily basis. I'm looking around right now, I see glasses on people's faces. I see hats on people's heads. Let's take the hat, for example. Put the hat on your head. That's the stimulus. Is it constant? Is the hat changing weight? Are you doing this all day? No, you stick it on your head and you go about your business. So the stimulus from that hat is constant. And initially when you put that hat on your head, you feel it. Why? Because action potentials are being generated. Because the energy from that hat was transduced, action potentials were generated, they march to the somatosensory area of your brain, and that gets interpreted as a hat is on my head. Shortly thereafter, and it doesn't take long, you don't feel that hat on your head anymore. People with glasses on right now, you did not feel your glasses until I just mentioned that you have glasses on your face. That's sensory adaptation. You don't feel it after a while because you've adapted to it. And when you have receptors that have the ability to adapt, it's because they can and it doesn't pose a risk or a danger to you. We're going to see receptors that are called tonic receptors that do not adapt. And they do not adapt because it will become a danger if they did. A phasic receptor, which is what these are, so let's put the word phasic here. These are phasic, no, let's not put it there because we need to draw something there. This is sensory adaptation of phasic receptors. Only phasic receptors can adapt. Tonic receptors do not do this. So when you see the word phasic receptor, you know that it is going to behave in this manner. By definition, that's why it's called a phasic receptor, because it has the ability to adapt. So these are phasic receptors. Now, in some of these phasic receptors, pressure receptors within the skin would be one of the examples that then do this other cool thing. So now what's going to happen is, I'm actually going to cut off the stimulus right there. So now we're going to take the hat off of our head. Now you tell me, at the end of the day, when you take that hat off of your head, do you feel it? Do you think it's on your head? For a short period of time afterwards, when you take the hat off of your head, that you didn't feel before that, because we're down here, do you think it's on your head? For a very short period of time? Yes. Do it tonight. Hell, do it right now if you want, if you have a hat on your head. Take your hat off. You're going to feel it. And it's not there. You get this rebound effect. And then it goes away. You feel it. Again, for a short period of time. Now,